Well, every Mohammedan of Hanfi sect has the right to deal with his property in a way he likes. There are certain modes to transfer the property. Gift is one of those modes which are recognized by the Hanfi law. A gift is a transfer of property made immediately without any exchange. So it is transfer of property. In fact, it is transfer of title, it is transfer of ownership as to the property owned by him. When a person transfers the property by way of gift, the title of the donor passes on to the donee on the making of the gift immediately without exchange. The most important thing is that there should be immediate transfer and there should be an offer by the donor and acceptance by the donee and the delivery of possession. So immediately the title of the vendor is of the donor is to pass on to the donee. So there are under the Hanfi law, the persons who belong to this sect have a right to transfer by way of gift the property owned and possessed by them. Every Hanfi Muslim of sound mind and not a minor is capable to make a valid gift. So, sound mind and majority are prerequisite to make the gift. Here is a thing which is to be noted, that the donor should be major and there is no need of a donee to be a major. So a gift may be made to a minor, but the donor must be of sound mind and who is not a minor may transfer the property by way of gift. The extent of the authority is unlimited. He may dispose of whole of his property by way of gift. So there is no embargo, there is no impediment, there is no restriction on his right to transfer the property, as there are certain limits imposed on the will. There is a great distinction between the will and the gift. There are certain limitations imposed upon the will regarding the extent of the will, regarding the property, regarding the person. But the gift gives the unfettered powers. Where a person intends to transfer his property by way of gift, he may transfer it without any hindrance to anybody, even to an heir, even to a stranger. He may transfer the whole of the property to all of his heirs. He may transfer whole of his property to one of the heirs. He may transfer the property in any way he likes. So it means that he has unfettered powers to transfer the property. So under the gift, there are two important things, that it is without an exchange and it is the donor's right to transfer it to anybody he likes. So there is no restriction on the extent of his authority. There are certain jurists who made it clear that a donor should not transfer his property by way of gift to any of the heirs or any stranger to the exclusion of other expected heirs. But this is a moral duty of the donor. The law does not restrict him. He may do whatever he likes. So the restriction of not depriving his legal expected heirs may be a moral one, but not a legal one. Under Hanfi law of gift, he has unfettered powers. If you go to the Transfer of Property Act, section 53 says that the transfer, which is fraudulent one, a transfer with intent to defraud the creditors, is voidable at the option of the creditor. So sometimes this is also attracted in the Mohammedan law. But in fact, these provisions relate to the Transfer of Property Act and not to the Hanfi law of gift. Hanfi law of gift does not impose such like restriction. He may dispose the property of, but the restriction has been imposed by the Transfer of Property Act that a fraudulent transfer is not allowed. If a person has a creditor and he wants to deprive him from his right, he may transfer his property, but the law says that he is not allowed to do so. If he does like this, so this transaction shall be a fraudulent transaction, and the fraudulent transaction, the effect thereof is given in the Transfer of Property Act. So far as the Hanfi law of gift is concerned, it does not impose any restriction. Some of the jurists are of the view that this restriction is also imposed on a Hanfi Muslim. But I am of the view that this restriction is imported from the Transfer of Property Act and not from the Islamic Hanfi law of gift. So how the gift is to be made? The writing is not necessary to make a valid gift. The registration is not necessary. The writing is not necessary. It is only the intention of the donor and his act of offering the property and the act of the donee to accept it and the act of delivering the possession. These are the factors which are necessarily to be taken into account while making the gift. Sometimes it happens that a person enters into a document and gets it executed, and then thereafter it is got registered, but the possession is not delivered therein. So the gift is void. The registration will not serve the purpose. It is the gift which is to be completed, and then it may be got registered. First, the gift is to be made. And how it is made? It is made by the offer, acceptance, and the delivery of possession. It is always necessary to the validity of a gift that there should be delivery of possession, as the subject of the gift is susceptible of. Sometimes it happens that physically the property cannot be handed over to the donee. So in this situation, the law says that the delivery of possession should be of such nature as the thing is susceptible of, meaning thereby that if the thing can be physically delivered, it should be physically delivered, and if it cannot be physically delivered, it should be delivered in a way to which it is susceptible of. So, as observed by the Judicial Committee, the taking of possession of the subject matter, either actually or constructively, is necessary. So there should be an element of possession. So the essentials of the gift are offer, acceptance, and delivery of possession. And the definition of the gift is that it is without exchange. So there should be nothing in the exchange. Number one, there should be offer, there should be acceptance, and there should be delivery of possession. And when the possession is delivered, then the transaction is completed. But if the document is written, possession is not delivered, then the gift is not valid. If the possession is delivered and the document is not registered, it does not make any difference. So there are three types of situations when we are to see how the possession is to be delivered. One is that he is in actual physical possession of the property. The donor is in actual physical possession of the property. Second situation is that the property is in possession of a tenant. He is not in actual physical possession. A tenant is holding the property on his behalf. Even then, he is presumed to be in possession of the property, but actually he is not. And third situation is that the donor is in possession and the donee is also in possession. Now, in these three situations, how the possession is to be delivered? Because the delivery of possession is a must. In first situation, when he is in actual physical possession of the property, he must deliver the possession and the donee should step into his shoes. The possession of the donor shall be transferred to the donee in the same way as he is holding the property. But when the property is in possession of the tenant, then there are two things. Number one, he should declare that he has delivered the possession. Number two, he should order for the atonement. Then the tenant should atone the landlord, the new landlord. And it should be brought into the notice of the tenant that the property has been transferred by way of gift from the donor to the donee, and onward the donee shall be entitled to receive the rent, shall be entitled to deal with the tenant, and the tenant shall be bound to accept him as his landlord. So when the tenant is in possession, this is called delivery of possession through atonement. He will atone it. He will accept that, okay, you are the new landlord, I accept it. When there is a relationship of donor with the tenant, the donor is the landlord and the tenant is under him. So there exists a relationship of landlord and tenant between the donor and the tenant. Now the donee comes in place of the donor. When the donee comes in place of the donor, then he becomes the landlord. And the relationship of landlord and tenant is created by operation of law and by the delivery of possession and by the transfer of ownership to the new donee. Now the donee, being owner of the property, shall be the landlord and it shall be deemed that the possession has been delivered. The third position is when both are in possession of the property. Then there is no need to deliver the possession. He will declare that I have delivered the possession, and then onward he will derive all the benefits of the property which were available to the donor. So these are the three ways when the property is transferred. Then sometimes it happens that the property is adversely in possession of another person. And what happens? When there is a tenant, he will atone, but when it is in possession, adversely in the possession of another person, then the situation is different. Then what should he do? How the possession is to be delivered? If A is in possession of the property, claiming himself to be the adversely in possession of the property, and he is not ready to deliver the possession to the original owner, then how the original owner can enter into a gift transaction? Even then, being owner of the property, he can deal with the property and he can transfer the property to anyone he likes. But in spite of this, when the possession is not going to be delivered because of the adversary of the other party, because another person is adversely in possession of the property, then what should be done? Then there are two ways. One is first to get the possession from him, then to deliver him. And second is to make him capable to get the possession. If he is capable to get the possession from the person who is adversely in possession of the property, then the possession is deemed to have been delivered. So this is the most important thing, that offer, acceptance, and delivery of possession are necessary for making a valid gift. That's all for today.